Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our onX Fish 101 for the month of August. We'll get going in just a couple of minutes here. We want to give a little bit of time for everybody to get logged in and get situated. So while we wait, just a couple of reminders, a little bit of housekeeping. Your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you. No worries if you've got dogs or kids or anything making noise in the background. If you do have a question you'd like us to answer on the air, please open the Q&A feature along the bottom bar of your screen. That's the best place for questions. There is also a chat box there. Chat is not a good place for questions. They just get lost. They're hard for us to kind of keep track of there. Chat is good if you just want to let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, things like that. This class is being recorded, so if you do have to duck out early, you can go back and watch the portion you missed, or if you just want to rewatch something or send it to a fishing buddy so they can get schooled up, we will email you the recording tomorrow evening. It'll be uploaded to YouTube, and we'll just have that YouTube link in that email tomorrow. It'll arrive in your inbox about this time. And finally, we are doing a giveaway. We're giving away some of these onX hats like I am wearing. We're going to give away 5 of those bad boys, and we'll post the giveaway link in the chat towards the end of class. So make sure you stick around for the full class to be able to enter to win that. Little bit of agenda tonight. We're going to go over most of the different features within the app. We won't be able to cover every single thing, but we're going to hit the kind of the basics. Basically, our goal is that you can take your onX Fish app, plan out a spot to go fishing this weekend, and go out and hopefully catch some fish. So we'll talk about some of the fisheries data, the lake finder, some of our map tools, how to use it while offline, how to use some of the different layers and base maps, and then some search, and we'll save some time for the Q&A and the giveaway. Most of the class, you're not going to be listening to my voice. You're going to be listening to Mr. Joel Nelson, who's actually down in Bozeman currently, but lives in Minnesota full time. So Joel, how are things?
It's going great. Bozeman is especially less humid this time of year compared to my home in Minnesota. So as much as I love fishing in the Midwest, and I'll be back there very soon, I'm enjoying this brief respite of unsweatiness. It's very nice.
Yes. And no wildfire smoke yet. So you're really lucking out. Usually this time of year, you might be, feels like you're breathing in campfire smoke half the time. Well, should we get into it? Do you want to pull up the map on your side and
I'm going to
teach
do
us
that.
about the lake finder and some fisheries data?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. First and foremost, though, I want to take the opportunity to thank everyone for being here. We feel really strongly that a masterclass is probably the best way to help you guys understand what onX Fish is all about, help you understand how to use it, and really work it into a part of your fishing game so that you've got the cutting edge information. You can help find new lakes, places that you've maybe never considered fishing, or places you've always driven by and wondered what's in that lake. And then also have the confidence to get there. Really, we're going to use a lot of different tools within the onX Fish app to help you become a better angler. And really, that's the goal for everybody. So as Jack said, questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A there. Anything app related we can help with, perfect, we will. A couple of housekeeping things right off the bat. We do get a lot of questions about Android. We currently are not on Android. We're only on iOS. It is available on web maps, so anybody that wants to be able to join can pull it up on web at any time. We are developing for an Android app. We don't have a timeline yet for you, but rest assured it is something that we are working on, and we take that very seriously because I happen to have an Android phone. That's what I use as well, so they can't continue to leave me in the dark, so they won't do the same to you guys either. So another thing I want to mention, contour data. We get a lot of questions about our contour data. Our contour data is provided by state agencies. It's typically DNR provided 5 and 10 foot contours. We do not have HD contours, but we have something that no other app really has, which is utilizing fisheries data in a way that helps you find exactly what's in the water that you want to target, in the species that you want to catch, and the size and number that you're trying to catch. So one thing remains true, even on lakes with great HD contours, you can't catch a walleye where it isn't. So that's really what we're here to help you guys understand and really lean into this idea of using fisheries data to know exactly where to go and why to go there. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Make sure I don't have any crossed wires. Jack, are you seeing my onX Fish screen?
Sure am.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to zoom out for folks just to get a lay of the land and help you understand what we've got going. The current product name is onX Fish Midwest. So we are in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Dakota, and most recently, we've added Indiana to the map. So welcome, Indiana anglers. There's a couple other states that are very soon to follow, kind of in that Indiana area. So we're going to have a lot more friends in the app here soon, and definitely want to get everybody up to speed on the opportunity. I'm going to use a number of Minnesota examples because very familiar with that. Think that no matter where you're at, you'll be able to understand a little bit better about how to use the map just by going through some of these examples. But for those of you on the app following along, or those of you on the web map following along, I want to talk about Lake Finder first. So if you're on web, you'll see where my mouse is pointed. It's on this little Lake Finder area. If you're on the app, it's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. So if you're trying to follow along on the app, go to the lower left-hand corner of your screen on the web map, Lake Finder, you click on it, and right away, for the area that you're selected, for whatever zoom level you have, it's going to show you a couple things. It's going to provide suggestions. In this instance, it says abundant walleye lakes. These are lakes that have been surveyed to have lots of walleyes in them. Abundant bluegill crappie, trophy walleye, other lakes in the area that you may want to target based on whatever criteria you're searching for. So Lake Finder provides you with a lot of different examples. And again, it is zoom area dependent. So if I zoom in a little bit tighter to, let's say, this area north of Grand Rapids, I go to Lake Finder, it provides new customized results for whatever my search area is. And real quickly, you can see a number of different things. You can see max depth, the size of the lake in acres. You've got an idea of when it was last surveyed. And of course, you can see all of the lakes that had abundant walleye that kind of fit that criteria that's laid out for you in Lake Finder. Again, Lake Finder, if you're on the web version, left-hand side of the screen. If you're in the app, it's in the lower left-hand side of the screen. So Lake Finder is just a really quick, dirty, and easy way to look for this stuff. Okay, now let's dive deep. If there's one thing that I want you to come away with from this presentation is an understanding of how we use filters in onX Fish. The filters are simply located at the top of your screen. If you're on the app, go ahead and click on all, and you'll see me mousing over it right now on the web version. It'll look exactly the same for you on the app. Where I click on all, I can get to the filters page. Filters is the power of onX Fish because there are so many different ways that you can help to sort for what you're looking for. Let's say we were looking for just crappie lakes. Immediately what you see on my screen as soon as I select crappies, all of the lakes where surveys have indicated crappies exist, populate. Boom, they pop up as these little red dots. But what if we were looking for lakes that maybe had high abundances of crappies? So these are lakes where there's quite a few crappies in them compared to the rest of the lakes in the area. What if we were looking for lakes with crappies that had keeper potential, maybe fish in that 9 to 11 or 12-inch range that we would love to keep and eat? And then there's also this idea of a new filter. It's brand new. It's not yet on your app. It's only released in web. It will very soon be in your app. So keep in mind for upcoming releases in the next week or two, high stocking effort is something that's going to show up. And we'll get into that in a little bit. I want to detail that in a little more depth for you. But first and foremost, I want you to understand how to select a fish species, and then definitely be able to pan around the map and understand what you're looking at here. But the filters go beyond that. We had a question in one of the pre kind of sessions asking about how can I find where kayak accesses might be? Well, carrying accesses are located right here too. And you can go ahead and select for lakes that have just carrying accesses. Or you can select for ones that are trailer accessible, have paved surfaces, even have amenities like restrooms. You can also lower your search to a lake size that might be better on, let's say, a windy day. You're trying to avoid getting out on big bodies of water. And again, all of that is done within the filters. So I'm going to stop right now and I'm just going to display that one more time for you. Top hand part of your screen, you can click on either all, species, or access, but all gives you the ability to choose any of the filters that you want. So let's say you're clicking around and you've got a couple different species selected, you're looking at a couple different things, you selected all these different ideas and you just kind of get lost and you're like, I just want to start all over again. Click reset. Reset clears your entire filters at any point. If it gets overwhelming, you just need to start over. Go ahead and click reset. All right, so let's go back to those filters in a little bit. Let's talk maybe real world examples. I showed you crappies earlier. Let's talk about walleyes a little bit. So as soon as I select walleyes, like I said, it will populate all of the lakes that have walleyes in them. And let's say I was looking for lakes where we know the DNR over the years has provided a lot of effort in stocking. And let's look for lakes that have high stocking effort. And right away, it identifies a number of lakes where the DNR has poured a lot of stocking effort specifically for walleye into these bodies of water. Now we can do the same thing for things like, well, let's say muskies. We can see where the muskie lakes exist, but we can also see if they spent a lot of time pouring muskies into these lakes. And at least for the search area that I've selected, that's not the case. So high stocking effort doesn't apply in that area. But it's always a nice additional way to look at how you might use this. On the walleye examples, let's say we're only interested in lakes that had great big fish in them. So let's focus on maybe one of these. Okay, Turtle Lake, for example, is identified as a lake that's got trophy potential for walleyes. Let's dig into the how we know. How do we understand? Where does our data come from? So we click on it. Right away with walleyes, you can see trophies. Trophy potential is identified. You can see that it was stocked. And when I click on walleye, you can see that there are population estimates that go back, and you can see there's a 29-inch fish surveyed in 2017, and under trophy potential, there it is listed. So what these data are is very different than a lot of other apps out there. This isn't crowdsourced data. This isn't user-generated content. This isn't my 17-year-old kid, bless his soul, saying that he caught a peacock bass on Turtle Lake. This is actual data from verified professionals. These are fisheries biologists that are out there doing the sampling on a regular interval. It's a population assessment. They're not just trying to hook and line sample and see what they catch with all kinds of bias. This is true data that helps you understand exactly what's in the fishery. And typically that's in the form of gillnet surveys, but you can also see that I can scroll back and look at surveys over time to understand exactly how the population may have changed over the years, which can be beneficial. And then at the bottom, you can definitely see stocking history. If I select fingerling is the only stocking size that's been happening here in Turtle Lake. And you can see that, yeah, there's regular effort being put towards stocking as many as 22,000 or so fingerlings, 23,000 fingerlings every other year or so. So again, kind of a neat way to understand that, yeah, I might have great HD contours for this lake, but I don't know what's in it. I don't know what swims in it. I don't know the size of them. I don't know the number of them. But with onX Fish, you can know those things. Okay, let's go back a little bit. I'm going to kind of start from scratch just to make sure I didn't lose anybody. I'm going to reset my filters. Just going to zoom out a little bit here and do that same exercise. I'm going to select all. I'm going to go to walleye. Previously, I selected trophy potential. Now, what if I select keeper potential? Boy, not a lot showing up. We've got definitely Cutfoot Sioux showing up as a keeper potential lake. Let me click on Cutfoot Sioux attached to Winnie. We can see that there are fishing areas here. We'll talk a little bit about that. But when it comes to walleyes, you can see that this is the lake card. The lake card is identified by the lake name at the top. You can see it identifies a lot of things. It identifies water clarity, the size of the lake, max depth, most recent stocking information. It says that there's special regulations for this body of water, which is really interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But when you start looking into the species in a little more detail, we can see that this is a keeper potential lake because there's a fair amount of the population in kind of eater size. Greater than 30% of the population is kind of in that eater size. We can look at catch per unit effort. It's low for this lake compared to other lakes in its class. That blue bar represents the average range for similar lakes. Catch per unit effort is a really simple measure. It's basically the number of fish caught divided by the amount of effort, either in nets, net numbers, duration, time, that the net has been put out. And all it is for you guys to understand is that a high CPUE is generally good and a low CPUE is generally bad. A high CPUE means that they caught a lot of fish in a short amount of time or not many net sets. That's a good thing. That means that the CPUE is high and you've got a higher abundance level of that species in the lake that you're looking at. All right. So if I go back to Cutfoot Sioux Lake and I'm looking at the lake card, you can see that there's fishery information for Cutfoot Sioux. There's actually quite a bit on seasonal movements, where to fish, what kind of forages is in these lakes, giving you a good idea on kind of maybe matching the hatch. What kinds of things should I use? And you can see that the lake card contains all of the species for that lake, not just walleyes like we selected, but you've got the opportunity to look into other species that may save a fishing trip. Let's say you're on Cutfoot Sioux and the walleyes just aren't biting and you don't want to go out to Winnie because it's a big wind day. But you can see that there's a fair amount of crappies and the catch per unit effort is pretty high when compared to other lakes in its class. So kind of a nice way to look at other opportunities for different species in the lakes that you'll be fishing. And you can see like even trophy bluegill exists there. We've got stocking history and a lot of different things. And like I promised you guys, that special regs is really nice because it shows right off the bat, sunfish, daily limit 5, walleye, 18 to 23 inches. No more having to remember what the sign at the axis said. I have a lot of friends that used to take just digital photos of the sign at the axis to help remember what the size range was for what you had to put back, right? If there was a slot limit, like there is on Cutfoot Sioux, all walleyes, 18 to 23 inches must be immediately released. Now, the cool thing about onX Fish is this data is up to date by the day. It is directly from the download on the DNR server, and you get the freshest information to know that you'll always be on the right side of the law. So really no excuse not to know the special regs if you've got onX Fish. It's just super easy right off the bat. Okay, it also lists all the water access amenities. There's just a bunch of different ways you can interact with this lake card, the species that are in it, and a lot of the information surrounding it. But let's just look at the map now. Okay, so you see these dots. They're kind of they're kind of like a pale orange dot. If I change out walleye and I don't select anything, no species are selected, these dots are white. So these dots indicate a number of different things. If you're brand new to Cutfoot Sioux, for example, you've never fished it before in your life, these are suggested fishing areas. These are places with some information on the area, what's there, if it's a drop off, if there's like an offshore hump. It indicates to you what the cover looks like here. It indicates what good baits would be to try for which species during which time of year. Again, it's like a head start. And then it lists the species and what season that species is best to try given in that spot. So this is like a cheat code. Again, if you've never been there before, if you have no information on where to start and why, you'll have that information by looking at these fishing hotspots area insights. And this is not available on every lake. This is only available on select lakes throughout the Midwest. So again, keep in mind, these are a lot of the biggest and best lakes in a lot of areas that a lot of people fish. But again, when I select walleye, only the areas that are fishing areas where walleyes are mentioned inside those areas show up or light up for you. So kind of some interesting information. Okay. With that, I'm going to take just a little bit of a pause. I'm going to just kind of step back a little bit. We're going to go zoom out again to the full map. And we're just going to review really quickly what we've gone over. We talked about Lake Finder, right? We mentioned that if you're just looking for a general download of lakes in the area to get just a little bit of information, you can see these little badges that show up: trophy, special regs, recommendations based on specific species or not. You can do that within Lake Finder. If you want to use the filters to really drill down in a super quick manner for specific species that you want to catch in the size, type, and structure that you want to catch them, That's where you're going to start to select any of these premium filters, whether it's high stocking effort, keeper potential, high abundance, or trophy potential lakes. You can find the size of the fish and the species you're looking to catch. Okay. Now, if you wanted to just at random go ahead and pick a lake, like you know this lake maybe. Let's say you spent time and you've been to Eagle Lake before. You can always just click on the lake and then again get to that lake card to show you exactly what's in that lake on a species by species basis. Maybe this trophies is interesting to you. Let's go ahead and click on Eagle Lake. We'll see that they've surveyed some really big fish for bluegills. Fish 9 inches or larger have been surveyed, and over the years, definitely there have been it looks like a little bit of fluctuation in some of the size classes, but definitely Eagle is a lake that's got the potential to kick out some real trophy bluegills. So kind of a very cool idea. You can also see that stocking effort is listed on the species where possible. So low stocking effort, even though there is some stocking that takes place on Eagle, for walleyes, a relatively low stocking effort compared to other lakes. One other thing you see on the map, you see some of the same stuff you may be interested in knowing that you see on onX Hunt. You see some of the names of surrounding landowners. And, also interestingly, you see that some lakes may have sneaky access or the ability to get on via public land, right? Like this lake just on the very edge of it has what potentially in a high water year could be the opportunity to access it if you wanted to go through the swamp, or maybe if you wanted to do it over winter, you'd have the opportunity to go across this 3,000 acres of tax forfeit land. So again, really sneaky ways to get into lots of different lakes. And I'll go over some more of that once we get to the layers, but just wanted to kind of call out as we're looking across the map, there's a lot more than just lakes, and there's a lot more than just lake data here. There's a lot of land data as well that may aid your search, depending on what you're fishing for and how you're trying to access it, what time of year, if it's winter, if it's summer, if it's via boat, if it's by a canoe or a kayak. So a lot of options and opportunities for you guys as anglers. All right, that was a mouthful. I have talked a lot. I think I'm going to kick it back to Jack, and we're going to pause a little bit, think about digesting some of the stuff I just threw at you real fast. That little bit alone on the filters and then clicking on those individual lakes and digging into the species on those lake cards, that data alone will make you a better angler. I'm convinced of it. I've seen it happen too often. It's something we've been doing in Minnesota for the past 30 years or more. And now there's just such an easier way to do it using onX Fish.
While we're here, Joel, there's a question that I think
Yeah.
kind of dovetails in with what you were just demonstrating. Dan had asked earlier, how often is the data updated for contours and fisheries?
Great question. The contour data is not updated very frequently. These are pretty standard data sets. A lot of the stuff was collected back in the 60s and 70s. And so the contour data is not updated very often. Now, that said, we're always seeking for better ways to produce and provide better data for you guys. If we can get our hands on some good HD contours that we believe in, that we think will provide value, and is a good customer related focus for you guys, we'll definitely do that. As far as the fisheries data, that depends on the local area that you're in the DNR. In some states, lakes aren't surveyed very often, maybe every 5 to 10 years. In some states like Minnesota and Wisconsin, they're surveyed far more often. North Dakota is surveyed more often. There's a lot of states that do surveys on a roving 1 to 3 year basis, where you get lakes that are extremely popular that are going to get a yearly survey. And some of the ones that are less popular are going to be surveyed every 3 to 5 years. So that's where we get our data from. There's a lot of questions always. It's like, well, my lake doesn't have a survey. It's like, that's not on onX. That's just that's the DNR in your state. Just deciding that this isn't a fishery, we're able to provide coverage for you.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things we do at onX. Our data can only be as good as the data source, and we're not going to make anything up. We could certainly try to pull the wool over someone's eyes and create a fake survey data for a lake, but that wouldn't be very useful information. It wouldn't be honest. So we got to stick with what the DNR has available.
I just saw another question too. Is there a way to filter out the lakes that have the fishing area feature, or is this listed somewhere? The easiest thing to do is to settle in on an area that you know you'll be fishing. And even at this zoom level, anywhere you see those bright white dots, those are fishing hotspots lakes. So Deer, Cass, Pike Bay, Bemidji, Winnie, Leech, Sand, Bowstring, anywhere you see those white dots, you're going to have some of that upgraded, updated information with the fishing hotspots data in it.
Awesome. Well, should we jump into the app?
Let's do it.
Okay. Give me a second to take over the share here. Maybe. My phone will allow me to. Are you able to unshare your screen? That might help me.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Here we are. All right, so some of the stuff I'm going to demonstrate here will be familiar if you've used one of our other onX apps. So if you've used Hunt, Off-Road, or Backcountry, this will be very similar. But if you haven't, this will be very useful information. So what we're going to start with is our offline maps. So a lot of places we like to go fishing don't necessarily have great cell service. It's that time of year where a lot of people might be thinking about a trip for the Boundary Waters or something like that. Not a lot of great cell service in there, for example. So I'm just gonna pick a random area on the map. Oh, let's say we want to fish Cass Lake. Not super great cell service up in that region of Minnesota, in my experience. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to orient the map to the general location I want to save. Along the bottom of my app, I'm going to tap on the second icon from the left that says offline maps. It's going to pull up a menu like this. I'm going to tap the green button that says new map. And then I'm going to get a white box on my screen. Whatever's within that box is what is going to be saved for offline use. So I can still adjust the perimeter. I'm just using one finger right now and dragging my map around. I can choose the detail level of my map. So as you see right now, with the high detail level, this is the biggest map I can save. So if I'm just interested in fishing Cass, I can just barely fit all of the lake in there. So if I want to save that, I'm going to pull this menu up. I'm going to rename my map. Always name your map, because once you have a bunch of them saved, it's going to really help you to sort out where those maps are and what you have saved. Once I have the name in there, I'm going to hit save, and that's going to start downloading. Take a few minutes, and then once that is saved, whatever's within that box will show when I don't have cell service. And all of your map tools are still going to work when you don't have service. So you can still mark waypoints, which I'll demonstrate here in a bit. You can still track yourself, which I'll show as well. Because the GPS receiver in your phone doesn't work on the cell network. It works similar to like a Garmin GPS does, for example, on that same type of system. So now we've seen that box has turned bright green. That means it's saved. If I zoom out here, you can see I've got a bunch of different maps of different sizes saved throughout the state of Minnesota. These bigger maps here that you see are my medium detail maps. Those are useful if maybe you're going to be vacationing for a week in a certain area and maybe you want to try to fish a whole bunch of different lakes. Save a medium detail map. That's going to give you bigger coverage. You don't need to save a whole bunch of different maps for each different lake. Maybe you are planning to fish Cass, but you don't have the biggest boat and the weather comes up and Cass is just looking a little too choppy for you to fish that day. Shoot, we still want to go fishing. We're going to pick one of the smaller lakes around us. Then you still have a map there. If I open up my menu here, you'll see some of these maps that I've previously saved say update available. All that means is something has changed in the map data since it was last saved or updated. Typically, that's going to be land ownership data. That's what changes the most. It could be some different lake data. It could be some different fisheries data or things like that. To update it, I'm going to take this Grand Rapids one, tap on the green circle, and that's going to start that update. Is this something you need to do every time you see update available? No. You don't have to do these updates every single time they're available. The map is still going to work. It'll just have some piece of data that's outdated. Update when you think about it. Update maybe before you're going to head out fishing. That's all the real frequency you need to do for your offline maps there as far as updates go. Don't think that you have to do it once a week or anything like that. I'm going to zoom into Cass here. And you see this is one of those, we have some of those fishing areas listed. But let's say we're out fishing and we want to mark an area on the map. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. So I'm going to go into my tools right now. That's the second icon from the right along the bottom. And in there, there's a bunch of different tools. We're going to focus mainly on waypoints. If you want to mark a waypoint where you currently are, say you're out fishing and you're hammering the fish in this one spot, you say we need to save this for later, you're going to tap mark my location. That's going to place a waypoint right where you are currently. I'm not going to tap that right now because I'm sitting in an office building in Missoula, Montana. So it's going to swing the map over to our location. You'll just have to trust me. That's going to put a waypoint where you are. If you want to maybe scout an area out before you head out and place some different areas that you want to fish when you're out on the water, you can tap add waypoint. Now you'll see it places a waypoint right in the middle of my map. Not exactly where I want to be fishing, right off the side of Highway 2. So I'm just going to tap on my map. Everywhere I tap, that's going to move the waypoint there. So this looks like a pretty good spot. We got some fishing areas data. The next step, just like your offline maps, name your waypoints. Once you have 50, 100, a couple hundred waypoints saved, it's very easy to forget what each of those waypoints means if you don't put some other information in there. So this is really about helping your future self and being more efficient on the water to maximize your time out there. So let's say I'm going to fish Cass Saturday morning. I'm going to name this Saturday Spot 1 because it's the first spot I want to check out. And I can always change this name later. Let's say I go fish it and we strike out. I might change it to something like don't fish here again or struck out on Saturday, August, whatever Saturday will be, the 23rd, I think. Next step is to change the icon. We have dozens of different icons in here. Some of them fish species, some of them, Sasquatch, or there's a log in the water or something like that. I'm just going to make this one the bluegill icon for now. And then you can change the color of your waypoints. And there's a lot of different systems for color coding your waypoints. There's no real wrong way to do it. Some people will color code their waypoints by species and make their bluegill spots one color, their smallmouth spots another color, their walleye spots, muskie spots. You get the idea. That's a good way to do it, especially if you tend to fish a lot of different species. And once you start kind of building that data set of waypoints, then you'll just know when you look at them, hey, blue is bass and green is walleye and black is muskie. It'll just start in your brain. You'll automatically know even without having to click on the waypoint to see the name and see the information. So again, choose what makes sense for you. Maybe you do it by year. That's a popular one as well, where some people will say, hey, 2025, all my waypoints are this color. 2026, they're going to be this color. 27, they're going to be that color. So you can maybe see change over time. I'm just going to make this one, I don't think I've used yellow too much yet. I'm going to make it yellow, and then I'm going to hit save. So now I've got that spot marked. Another way to mark a waypoint that I honestly do more often, that's a little bit faster, is just to do what's called a long press on the map. So I'm just going to hold my finger down, tap add waypoint. You got to hold your finger down for about 2 seconds and it'll give you that prompt. And you can add a waypoint there. You see all the same stuff. Maybe we're fishing for crappie here. Gonna give it a name again. Saturday spot 2. Crappie's gonna be purple. Hit save. So that's the way to add waypoints. You can always go back and edit waypoints, and you can always go back and delete them as well. So let's say this first spot here, I want to edit it because I want to change where it is. Maybe we weren't really catching fish there. Maybe we were catching them a little bit farther out here. Just hit edit, tap on the map where you want it, and hit save. Maybe I want to delete this waypoint. Maybe I don't want to have a waypoint here anymore. I'll back out. So once again, tap on the waypoint, slide over, and hit delete. And that's just going to delete that waypoint for you. Let's say I went out fishing and I've got a really good buddy who's going to be fishing that same lake the next day. And I want to send them to where I was catching fish. That's something you can do in the app as well. So maybe we really did well on the crappies in this spot. What I can do is, again, tap on the waypoint, slide over. I'm going to tap that share button. And then that's going to allow me to share with a link or share nearby. 9 out of 10 times, most people are going to share with a link. What that does is it creates a text link that you will text message or email or WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, however you communicate. You can share that link with a friend. They will receive the text message on their side. It'll prompt them to click on that link. Once they click on it, it'll open up the onX Fish app and ask if they want to add that to their map. If they don't have onX Fish downloaded, it will first take them to the App Store or the Google Play Store, run them through downloading the app, starting an account, doing all that, and then they will be able to accept that share and see that waypoint. And the nice thing is, when you share a waypoint with somebody, it only gets shared to the person you want to have it. They can't then turn around and share it with anybody else. And if you want to revoke access, you can always revoke that waypoint from somebody and pull it away so that they no longer have it on their map. And while I'm on the topic of waypoints, a common question we get is, can other people see my waypoints or see photos I upload? The answer to that is no. The only person that can see your content, your markups, your waypoints, your lines, your tracks is you. We at onX cannot see them. Other onX users cannot see them. That data is all private. The only other people that can see that are people you specifically choose to share it with. So your data is private. You don't have to worry about, oh, I don't want to mark this waypoint because it's going to blow up the spot. Nobody else is able to see that. There was a question earlier I saw, somebody mentioned the tracker. If it works like it does on onX Hunt, the answer is yes, works exactly like it does on onX Hunt. Again, I can't really demonstrate it here because I'm sitting in an office in Missoula, Montana, but you can start your tracker. Your dot on the map will turn red. And as you drive the car, drive the boat, paddle the canoe, whatever, as you move along the map, there will be a dashed line that follows behind you, the breadcrumb trail of everywhere you went. So whether you want to track, every place you went in the boat, if you're trolling and you really want to see what kind of water you covered, you can run a track. This is really popular for ice fishing when we're driving out on the roads to be able to track where you went. Maybe you want to be able to help a buddy get out to your fish house. You can run the track and send it to them. They know exactly where to go. And it's kind of a safety thing too. If there's some spots that are kind of sketchy, to make sure that they're not getting off of that track, or maybe you drove out in the daylight, you're driving back at night and you can't quite see as well, to make sure you follow that exact same route back out, to follow those paved ice roads on a bigger lake like Mille Lacs or Red or Leech or something like that. And like I said, tracks can be saved. You can edit the color of tracks just like you can waypoints. One more thing I want to talk about here is let's talk about driving directions. So if you have a waypoint marked on the map, you can get driving directions to it. So let's say we're going to camp at this loop here, Wanakee loop. I'm just going to hit save. I could put a waypoint on a campground where we're going to camp, scroll over and tap driving directions. I can also do it for fishing access sites. So Norway Beach here, maybe that's where we want to put in. I'm going to tap on the Norway Beach public water access. Here it gives us our information. There's a toilet there. There's trailer parking, paved surface. There's a couple other options nearby. Maybe this one's pretty busy and full. Let me get back. But again, if I scroll over, I can tap on driving directions, and then it's going to kick you over to either Apple Maps or Google Maps, whichever your preferred one is. I tend to use Google Maps. So let's see how long it'll take me to get from Missoula, Montana to the Norway Beach access on Cass Lake. Only about 16 hours and 10 minutes. So I could be there, tomorrow afternoon or so. This is super helpful if you're going to a new area you've never been to and you just want the driving directions to the access. We're going to help you skip the step of trying to find it in Google Maps or Apple Maps yourself. Find it on onX and we'll kick you over there. Joel, what did I forget amongst all of that?
Well, I don't think you forgot anything, and that was a great explanation. That driving directions deal is really sneaky because, as you know, in lake country, you may, as the crow flies, be able to get there in 20 minutes, but as the lake roads turn, it's imperative that you're making the right moves because holy cow, you can drive around a lot and never make your way to the access. So I know from our guides, the ambassadors we work with, and so many of the other testing environments we've run it through, that driving directions to public access is a super slick feature. And I might add, our public access database, we continually get compliments on the varied number of accesses we have, the small ones, the off the beaten path gravel ones. So it's a pretty exhaustive database. And if you're looking for public accesses, we'll help you get there with confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the experience fishing opener in Minnesota, driving, especially on like Mille Lacs, some of
Yeah.
those and they're backed up all the way down the highway.
Yes.
And it's because there's a handful of accesses that kind of everybody knows, but man, there probably are some other ones that nobody else knew about 25 years ago and nobody at the lake, and it would have got you on an hour or two earlier.
Exactly. 100%. No doubt. Great. Well, that's wonderful, Jack. I think I'm going to share my screen again and take them back into a couple other things on the map. So great job. Thanks for sharing that stuff. All right. Back to the map. Everybody seeing my screen, Jack? All look good?
We got it.
All right. Sweet. So in the first part of our presentation, we went through a lot of the different fisheries data. We had a lot of great questions in that Q&A. So go ahead and monitor that. If you have more questions, I'm helping to answer that. Jack's helping to answer that live. Like we're here to provide help and suggestions and whatever we can. So feel free to ask whatever questions you guys have. But one thing I wanted folks to stick around to and for is kind of this completion of our presentation because we've got a lot of other really cool things that we can show you with the map. So let's say fisheries data isn't your shtick, or you don't believe in the fisheries data, or it's just not as helpful because you know what lakes you're going to fish. Here's a couple things within layers that are really going to blow your mind. So first and foremost, when you click on map layers, it's going to give you options to turn on a bunch of different layers. If you're on the web map, it's this little sandwich looking menu here, or a bunch of different stacks of paper. In the app, it's in the lower right-hand corner. In the web map, it's in the lower right-hand corner. When you click on it, it gives you the base map option at the outset. So the first thing that you look at is you can choose whether you want to look at a topo version, which can be less busy, right? It doesn't have all of the same colors that you're going to see on an aerial map that may be a bit distracting if you're only interested in looking at the water. But the hybrid is a nice approach because it's got both contours that you can see as well as the aerial photography in the background. But we can choose which aerial photography we want to change to. Hybrid high quality is like the standard. It's great. A ton of detail. You can really zoom in and see just, down to the individual trees if you want along the axis to get you some great information. But recent satellite imagery is awesome. So recent satellite imagery, you're going to get some clouds. You might get some atmospheric effects, but you can see that you can sort through different dates of photography. So, let's say we were looking at some small bass lakes, for example. Let's say we just wanted to focus in kind of that area north of Grand Rapids and yeah, maybe check out some of these smaller lakes and see if there's like developing weed lines, things that showed up. Maybe we are going to try to check out all the way back to ice fishing season and see when ice out happened, right? You can start to see some of those things and ice coming off of lakes all the way out into April. And the detail is such that you can really, for ice fishing season, get a ton of information. So let's zoom into Upper Red Lake and we'll look at like a couple different previous years of that information. Again, I'm going to start us from the beginning to get you there. Click on Map Layers. Layers is in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Click on it once, then select Recent Satellite, and then start scrolling back as you can see I'm doing on the screen. You can do this on the app, or you can do this individually. And what you can start to see is all of the ice roads, all of the individual parking spots for fish houses. Like there is a ton of information here as an angler that you can make use of for ice fishing. Specifically in Upper Red Lake, there wasn't a lot of people that attacked that north central, northwestern portion of the eastern end of Upper Red Lake. So all kinds of actionable intelligence, whether you're looking for summertime lily pad fields or wintertime ice roads, the recent satellite imagery is extremely, extremely useful. And again, like I mentioned, you can scroll through different dates that's available for you to be able to see that. The downside is that a lot of times the resolution isn't as good as the hybrid high quality. So a lot of times the hybrid high quality is just kind of the standard base map that a lot of people will use. Okay, let's talk about private public land layer. That's a really big thing in onX Hunt, but it's super popular for onX Fish. There's a lot of instances where it sure would be nice to know how to get on to certain water bodies. And maybe we know where we want to fish and we understand that, hey, this is a place like this lake here, Smith. We've gone here before. We've looked. It's an outlier for largemouth bass abundance. So outliers. I got a question in the Q&A. How do I quickly identify outliers? You don't. These are Easter eggs that we hide in there. It's the data is the data is the data. But when you see outlier, you know that for that species, the catch per unit effort is absolutely off the charts when compared to other lakes of similar type. So when you find an outlier for any species, it's going to have the maximum abundance of that kind of species compared to all other lakes in its class. But in this instance, Smith Lake does not have a public access. We don't see that yellow public access anywhere. But what we do see is that because of the public-private land layer, we can click on it and see that there's tax forfeit land that butts up against the south end of it. So if we wanted to in the winter, maybe try to go out there, we could fish for crappies. There's above average abundance, kind of a nice little average range, above average catch per unit effort. So we know that this would be a good lake to target. One thing I did want to show you, let's say you want to create a hit list of lakes you want to target this year. You can go ahead and save that lake by clicking on this little banner here in the lake card. Again, I'm going to show that to you. When you click on the lake, you get this lake card that comes up, this little banner that you see I'm highlighting with my mouse. You can click on that to save it as one of your favorited lakes that show up underneath the My Content section of the app. So that'll always be there for you saved. All right, back to the public-private land layer. We only have it adjacent to waterways. We don't have it for all land areas. So just keep that in mind. This is not a surrogate for onX Hunt, but it is useful if you're fishing and looking to gain access to water, maybe from shore. Active wildfires are kind of shown off here, which has been a popular topic here over the last part of the summer. Air quality, smoke forecast. Precip is super handy because when you're out on the lake, you can see storms that are rolling in, and it doesn't look like we've got too much going on. Some in Canada right now. They probably need it because of the wildfires. Motorized trails is a really big one. Anytime you see motorized trails, you think of really cool backwoods ways to get to different water bodies. And similar to motorized trails, snowmobile trails, if you click on those, they're the purple lines that show up. And a lot of times, snowmobile trails give us really interesting ways to access backwoods lakes. So if you own a snowmobile, yeah, you've got some options to get to some of these backwoods lakes. It's a pretty nice means of being able to utilize great data to get you to places with confidence that you otherwise probably wouldn't have gone to. All right, that's map layers. We talked about the base maps. We talked about recent satellite imagery. We showed off the public-private land layer. We talked about pre-SIP, motorized trails, and snowmobile trails. But I also want to talk to you guys about the weather. The weather portion of this app is sneaky good. And for a lot of people, $34.99 a year is worth the price of admission just for the weather app. And I'll show you why. Anywhere that you're at, anywhere you pan this map, it calculates the weather interpolated for this specific spot. And the way that it does that is it uses observer stations all over the place. So for Trout Lake, you're not getting the forecast for Duluth. You're getting the forecast interpolated from observer points around the area. And as an angler, you get just the information you need, which is super interesting. You get all the wind, you get all of the barometric pressure, sunrise, sunset, a weekly forecast, which you can look at the full week if you want. You get an hourly forecast with hourly wind predictions and hourly barometric pressure predictions, which is really good because you can start to see when the barometer is going to fall off and you might have a prefrontal condition type bite. You can see when the barometric pressure is scheduled to be stable, to provide several days of good fishing in a row. And what's really important is the moon phases. You can look at a full moon phase calendar where you can plan out your trip based on the moon phases. And you can also go back and look at the majors and minors. And if you're a musky fisherman or a big fish angler of any type, talking walleyes, bass, there's a strong correlation to large catches and the moon, and specifically when the moon is rising, setting, overhead, or directly underfoot. Those times are where the majority of IGFA fishing records come from, the majority of state-tracked fishing records come from, and the majority of In Fisherman's Master Angler program big fish come from for all species. So this is something to take note of. The majors and minors, the musky guys have known this for years. They've been using majors and minors as a way to just structure their day. There is no quicker and easier way to get the precise majors, minors, wind, weather, barometer, sunrise, sunset, hourly forecast, detailed weekly forecasts than the onX Fish app. We're very proud of that and how nice that is to have all of this information, the fisheries data, all of the ability to search your waypoints, drop new waypoints, get to public accesses with more confidence, and then study the weather and understand what this might mean for your particular day on the water. So a very big part of our app is beyond just cruising around the map layers. It's beyond just using the fisheries data. It extends to weather. It extends to aerial photography. It's great for ice fishing. It's great for open water fishing. And we had some questions about how do you transfer your waypoints. There's not a great way to do that yet, except for export them via My Content, put them on a card and take them to your boat graph. And there are other apps that do a great job with specifically high definition contours and getting that data onto and off of your boat system. But the depth of detail that we have in onX Fish is really unparalleled in any app that we've seen. And we're very proud of the progress and the success that we've had with it thus far. So that said, I'm going to take a little pause. Jack, were there questions and things that I need to cover and make sure we hit before we close this thing down?
Yeah, there's a couple in here, both from Steve. Um, First question he said was time frame for Illinois.
Steve, I can't give you a time frame, but I can say you'll be very happy in short order. It's one of the states that we're well along with, and we'll definitely have that one for you before you hit the ice.
And then, of course, we talked about one state, and then Iowa and Nebraska were asked about.
Iowa and Nebraska, I can't give you again a firm timeline. Just know that you guys, the Midwest, we're looking to fill it out by the end of the year. We hope to accomplish that goal. It comes down a lot to the state DNR. It comes down to a lot of the data requests that we have out, as well as the processing on some of these data. Sometimes it's really clean, other times it's pretty dirty and pretty messy, and we have to untangle a big monkey knot. So it just depends on that state and individually when we start processing it. But rest assured, when I say I don't want to say it's coming soon because soon is subjective. Jack and I were just talking about that. But I can tell you that it's in the works to be in your hands before 2026. If all else fails, we're really going to do our best to get as many of those states knocked down by then as we can.
Yeah, that's a little peek behind the curtain. That's the tough part with software development is we can say, hey, if everything goes right, it'll be done on this date, but rarely does everything go right. There's so often that something unforeseen pops up or there's an issue with data somewhere that delays it. So that's why we're not able to give this is when it's going live. So, of course, question on Ontario. I
Yeah,
don't believe that's coming as soon.
no, the trouble with Ontario and some of the Canadian provinces is the availability, not just of the contour data, but the fisheries data. So we're making inroads there, but we're further behind there than we are in a lot of places. Steve DeLisi said, what weather database? Jack, I know we use the same one for hunt that we do for fish. Are you able to share that one?
I'm not sure that I am, partly because I know we've changed it.
Hmm.
I'm not sure I would be able to say exactly. I know we pull, of course, from National Weather Service, your airports and your major cities. And then, like you said, we do pull from, private folks that have weather stations at their homes that are connected to the network is where a lot of it comes from as well. So that's how we're able to have that real exact data and pull interpolate it for your area like you did a good job of explaining and pull from multiple different stations to try to say the weather here, here, and here, and try to kind of say, all right, so for your location, this is what the weather's likely doing.
Yeah. One more question from Gary Haas. If time allows, can you go over the major minor concepts? There is books written about this. So like this will require some extra research on your part, Gary, but the general concept is that the major and minor times indicate when gravitational pull is either at the highest or the lowest. And depending on the phase of the moon, especially 3 days either side of a new moon or a full moon, when major or minor events near other low light periods, so like let's say sunrise or sunset, you really start to stack the odds in your favor for big fish feeding windows. And the data is what proves that out. Like I said, the biggest records that are broken in freshwater fishing have a really strong correlation to these timings. Another person had a question about Pool 4 Mississippi River track river height flow through the app. This is a great question. We don't do much with moving water. Now, Pool 4 is different because it is a lake, right? We've got Lake Pepin, and there is some stationary water there. But we would love to be able to provide that for you because, man, I live 25 minutes from Red Wing. We're checking the stage height, we're checking the stream gauge data. We know that this is important to anglers, and this is a learning that we'll take back to our team to make sure that we find a way to incorporate this into the app without breaking any of our moving water rules. And speaking of, if you're a trout angler and rivers and trout are what you're into, we also do own trout routes. So trout routes is onX company, something we provide for people that love to fish for trout in those streams. So check out trout routes if you get a chance to.
I do want to pull up just one more, go back to our slideshow here for folks. As we're wrapping up, I do have the giveaway link in the chat. So go ahead and enter that. If you do have trouble with the giveaway link, I often get feedback that it doesn't work, but I can never get anybody to explain what doesn't work about it. So a couple ideas. If it's not working on your phone, you may have to copy and paste it directly into a browser. Sometimes there's goofy security, procedures in place. You may have to take a screenshot of that giveaway link. Again, it's in the chat, not the Q&A, and type it in manually or something. We'll leave that open till midnight tonight, and then I will send an email out tomorrow morning to the winners and get your hat sent out. If you want to learn more than what we covered in the class here, check out our website. There's some great blog posts, some great help articles on there. Our Instagram and Facebook is another good source. And we didn't really mention, but our customer support team is phenomenal. You can always send us an email to help@onxmaps.com. We strive to answer every email that comes in within 24 business hours. So if you send one in Friday night, it might take a little bit of time. We do have some folks who work on the weekends, but our full team typically works Monday through Friday. So if you email us tonight, you can expect a response tomorrow, whether that has anything to do with, billing or your account or password, or you're just looking for some help with some function of the app, shoot us an email. We're happy to help. I do have on here more onX Fish classes. We are going to be taking a little bit of a break for the fall. We aren't going to have classes in September and October. We will gear back up for ice season. We're going to kind of watch the weather, whether we do a class kind of late November or early December. So this will be the last one for a little bit here. You can always go back and rewatch our classes. We have them right now. They live on the onX Hunt YouTube channel. We don't have a fish channel just yet, but you can go find them there if you go to the Masterclass playlist. And we did kind of already go through all the Q&A. So Joel, any final parting words for the folks?
No, we've got a little bit of a lull. Maybe we call this the dog days. There are still fish to be caught during bite windows. Get out there early and late. Always good advice, but some of the best fishing of the year is still coming, right? September, we'll maybe suffer through some warmer periods, but once that mercury starts to drop, once bait fish start moving shallower, water temps get into the 60s, then the 50s in throughout October, oh man, it's just going to get better and better and better. And then it'll freeze and we'll all enjoy drilling holes in the ice and catching fish through it.
And certainly post Labor Day and in the upper Midwest, as hunting season wraps up, you might have the lake to yourself.
Oh, great days out there in the fall.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a good evening and hope you're able to get out fishing soon. Thanks again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.